Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Can you hear us all right? Those of you who are online?
This is James with Grantsville City. We can hear you.
Terrific. And we can hear you well. So appreciate everybody coming out today and joining the meeting. And just for the record, the meeting's being recorded, and this is the June 13th, Monday, June 13th meeting of the Tooele Valley Rural Planning Organization. So welcome everyone, and we'll go ahead and dive into the agenda here. Let's see. So, and a thank you to Tooele County staff for getting us set up to have a hybrid meeting. And maybe we can go around and do introductions. First, we'll introduce those who are in person, and then invite everybody online to unmute themselves and introduce themselves. I'm Wayne Benyon with the Wasatch Front Regional Council. We're the support staff to the RPO.
Kip Billings, Wasatch Front Regional Council.
Jared Stewart, Tooele City, filling in as Mayor Wynn's alternate today.
I'm Andy Welch. I'm the county manager.
Brittany Lopez, Assistant County Manager.
Jared Hamner, Tooele County Council.
Kendall Thomas, Tooele County Council.
Terrific. Just in case you couldn't hear the other two in person, that was Rochelle Custer with Tooele County and Councilman Thomas, Kendall Thomas with Tooele County. And thank you, Councilmember Hamner. And if somebody else online, I'll just read the order or invite you to speak in the order of that you're on the participant list that's shown here. Mayor Critchlow.
I'm here. Thanks for having this.
You bet. And Dan England.
Yeah, this is Dan, City of Grantsville, City Engineer.
Terrific. Chip with UDOT.
I'm Chip with UDOT, the Region Traffic Operations Engineer.
Thank you. And just FYI, even though the meeting is set up as a webinar, Brittany has made it so that everybody's allowed to unmute and speak up at any time. So hopefully that'll work for us. And let's see, Jesse.
Jesse Wilson, Grantsville City.
Thank you. Jim.
Jim Bolser, Tooele City Community Development Director.
Terrific. And Juan, are you back on? Apparently not quite yet. And then do we know who that is on the phone with the 801-500-2003.
Jay Aguilar, Long Range Planning for UDOT.
Terrific. Glad you could join us, Jay. And Juan, well, we'll let Juan introduce herself when we get to that point in the agenda. Let's see. All right. Did I miss anyone? All right. Well, thank you. Appreciate your participation. And would anyone care to make a motion on the March 14th meeting minutes?
I make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Motion from Councilmember Thomas.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Jared. Second from Jared Stewart. All in favor, you can unmute and say aye or nay.
Aye.
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 Terrific. Thank you. Those minutes will stand approved at the March 14th meeting. All right. Juan, are you back online or back in the meeting yet? Okay. Maybe one indicated she was having difficulty with her audio and video. So feel free to speak up, Juan, whenever you get those audio and video issues resolved.
Can you
In-
hear me now?
Oh, yes. Terrific. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. Okay, I'm so sorry. I can't present. So I'll give a verbal update.
That'll work.
Okay, so the project Mid Valley Highway, the environmental assessment is and have received a lot of comments. We held a online and in-person meeting back in April and started our 30-day comment period after. The in-person person had 85 attendees. That was quite a bit. And we have received 116 comments formally. Overall, the comments are exploration of sheep lane alignment, support of active transportation, concerns about mining areas, and business and private investments, and overall support of the project. Our next community event is a stakeholder working group meeting in July. And we continue to have individual stakeholder meetings with larger groups. And of course, the RPO presentations. If you're interested in other meetings, let me or the project team know. Contact info for the project is available at udot.utah.gov/Mid-Valley MIDVALLEY, or at email midvalley@utah.gov. And phone number is 269-2440 or contact me directly. Juan, 801-910-2008. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Any
No,
questions?
Thank you for the update, Juan.
I'm sorry, next time I will try to be in person. I thought I could present on time online.
Well, this is obviously our first hybrid meeting of the RPO, and so still, it's always a work in progress, the technological side of the hybrid meetings. So yeah, if you're able to attend in person, wonderful. If not, we'll make do or do our best. If you'd like us to send out slides to the group, this is Wayne, I'd be happy to do that. But that was good to know. And any sense of what the agenda will be for that stakeholder working group, or what the objective of that meeting will be? Or can you give us a refresher on the steps through the environmental process? And so it sounds like the first step was some scoping, and now we're moving to something else, maybe?
So our next step is alignment development. So at the next meeting, we'll share what we've learned and some initial alignments.
Awesome.
And we'll solicit input from the public and the stakeholder.
Terrific. That sounds very good. Thank you. Any other comments or questions for Juan? Thank you for making the time to keep the RPO informed. So appreciate it.
Anytime.
For the next item, for those in person, I've got hard copies, and then Brittany will share the screen with what we're looking at, hard copy.
Could we get these in PDF, Wayne?
Say
Emailed
that
to
again, please.
Could we get them emailed to us in PDF by chance? Those virtually attending?
So if you can't see it, hopefully you can see it, but if you cannot see it, I guess we'll have to rely on sending that out after the meeting. Are you able to see that on the screen?
Yes, that's what I was asking, Wayne, if you could send it out after the meeting.
Yes, be
Thank
glad to. You can also see it on the screen. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yes, we were planning on that, and we will make sure to send it out after the meeting as well. So just as a reminder, the intent is to update the current long-range transportation plan for the valley that the RPO produces by a year from now. And so and thank you to all of you who reviewed this map and made some updates to it. I believe we were able to interpret correctly the updates, but if not, as you get the PDF, feel free to respond to that email with any questions or comments saying we didn't get the update right. But this map we believe incorporates the updates that everyone gave us. And so, and then additionally, as you'll recall, part of the purpose of updating the plan at this time is to extend the horizon year out to 2050. The current plan only goes out to 2040. And so just for purposes of starting the discussion today, I've on this map updated or added a phase 3 and several of the previous routes that were identified as phase 2. I've suggested a starting point to move some of those to phase 3. I won't be offended at all if you want to scrap what I've done and work off the current plan and suggest updates of your own, or if you want to go ahead and mark up this, but wanted to give the opportunity for any discussion today. And so let me just share a few things that may be appropriate to keep in mind in terms of identifying phasing for the roadways or for the active transportation routes. If there's planned roadway work in the near future, that might be a consideration. If there are children or youth using some route to get to school that is not safe, then maybe that's a consideration. If children or youth are needing a safer way to walk or bike to school. Another consideration might be where there's existing demand. In other words, if there are roadways where cyclists are using that facility frequently, maybe that's a consideration. And obviously, those are just a few examples of many considerations that all of us might think about as we suggest updates to either the routes or the phasing. But those are some items for consideration as you look at the map.
Wayne, as we're looking at these bicycle routes, I know SR 112 has a kind of a share the road methodology, and I see that it's looking at phase 2 along that route. What facilities are we looking at here? Are we looking at off-highway facilities? What type of amenities are we trying to, and safety measure are we trying to put in place for cyclists as we look at these phases? What's on the table here?
Very good. And so there's an accompanying map that I will also send out, but that I did not share today, and that will be a major consideration, I imagine, in identifying phasing. But there's an accompanying map showing route type, and that SR 112, that second phase. So I'm trying to take one thing at a time, but that's definitely something that ought to be looked at in tandem. The type of route on 112 there is identified on the current plan as a multi-use path. So a separated pathway from the highway itself. And that's the case from, that's the case clear from 138 down to Sheep Lane. Does that?
Thanks, Wayne.
You bet. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, Wayne, just, I hear so much from the state legislature and different committees that there's money for recreation, for active trails and lifestyles. Is there, I know it all comes back to money. So is there a way we can expedite, elevate any of these, like coming around by the point of the mountain, coming up through Lake Point Erta, through Chris Robinson's property up through there and that? Also like coming up from Grantsville on 112. Is there ways we can expedite some of these? And I appreciate the phasing, colors and being color coordinated. Is there any way we can elevate some of these and help move them forward?
That's an excellent question. And I'm afraid there's no easy answers. Maybe what I can do, in addition to sending out the PDFs of both the phasing, this starting point on this updated phasing map and the current route type map, I can also send out a list of potential funding sources for active transportation. And I know the county has, I believe it's still going through, but has received some funding for the pathway along, or the bike lane along SR 36 up in the Stansbury Park area. Tooele City has received some funding for England Acres.
Yeah, correct. The England Acres Trail. Yeah.
Right. And so, it's most of the time, it's usually one step at a time, getting things ready for, planning, environmental work, preliminary engineering. One section at a time is typically how we're able to move forward.
Let me just talk just a second to you on that one,
Please.
Wayne. And we discussed the other day, we're kind of this tweener county. So we don't get to be into the TAP program where the major state money is for active transportation, right?
Well, I'll clarify. a bit.
Help me out on that one.
Yeah, so there's small urban funds and there's non-urban funds. And so for Tooele County, it depends on where the facility is. If it's in a small urban area, you can apply for small urban TAP funds. And I haven't heard of there being much in the way of the small urban STP funds used for active transportation.
And our problem is we've got washed out on the Joint Highway Commission because now we're over 70,000 in the county.
Well,
So we've now crossed that threshold, which takes us out of 2/3 of the Joint Highway Commission stuff. And all the TAP fund, you have to be in one of the urban areas. So we're kind of caught in this middle ground where we don't have the same available funding that you think we might. At least I don't see it.
Well, and I'm glad you're bringing that up. So for Tooele County, even though the county is already over to 70,000, there's still, depending on the location, the county can apply for small urban if the facilities within those boundaries, or if the facilities outside of those boundaries, you can apply for non-urban funds. So you're still eligible,
Okay, well,
even though you're over.
So next time we get together, let's lay that out on the table so we can all see it. Because I sat there with the Joint Highway and said, oh yeah, you don't get in this one and you don't get in that one.
Yeah, I'm sure it's
And it's clear to me the TAP is not available. We already talked about that, where you got a city as small as Willard gets to participate because they're part of the urban area. And Perry's smaller than 2 or 3 cities in Tooele County.
Yeah.
So they get included in that urban business.
Well, that's a good idea to lay that out because 2 things. One, there are TAP funds designated by Congress to go to the urbanized areas. But 2, the TAP funding with this recent Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the Transportation Alternatives Program funding has increased significantly Currently statewide, the counties, Tooele County is eligible for TAP funds administered through UDOT, but those fund amounts are so small statewide that it's been challenging for the state to do much with them, frankly. I will find out whether that has changed with the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act or not, but the county is also still eligible for the Transportation Investment Fund, active transportation funding. And so I'll also share some information about how to apply for that, because the county is definitely eligible for that funding.
Okay.
So
Wayne, just a question though, you mentioned Tom, are we gonna take this offline, bring it back? Because the one trail I've been around familiar with is the sound wall down in Stansbury. And it's been 3 years. I mean, we're already there to the point where keep pausing. I'm sure Ken was involved in helping moving that. It seems like we got great lines on the map, but I don't see no payment when I drive by them, you know, to say,
sure.
how can we move that forward? Because man, it seems like it's already there. It's just, we haven't got the trail. I mean, we got right of ways, we got gone through all the studies and everything.
If I can jump in,
A breakout meeting to say what's up, how do we move it? Help us, coach us through it. Andy, maybe you can help me out. Do we have people that are following up on the grants to get this forward?
this is Grant Farnsworth. Sorry, I'm not able to attend. Is it all right if I just interrupt for a little second?
You bet.
Thanks. Just you're right on point, Wayne and Kendall. We actually, so the TIF Transportation Investment Fund, active transportation fund was used to award the project for the Sound Wall Trail, and we're currently, I believe, working out the transfer agreement of the monies for that trail. But that is something that with the, I think it was an 80-20% match. Normally it's 60-40 where the state pays 60 and the local entity or grants or other matching are used for the 40% is used for active transportation. And that's how a large amount of these active transportation trails are being funded. But that Soundwall Trail near Stansbury is one of the award recipients for the 80-20 match. And I think it's currently just going through that agreement to transfer the funds over. I think we're currently working with Amy Bates, but I could be wrong. I'll have to, Kevin, I think Ogden is currently taking on that project specifically. Sorry, just wanted to give you an update where that is a really good fund to be tapping into and is available to urban, rural, all of the state. It just has that 60-40 match requirement.
Thank you. It sounds like Rochelle is saying that that agreement is in process. Is that?
And Amy is the contact. Grant's correct.
And so you're correct, Grant. Thank you. Yeah, no, and so glad there's a little progress here, a little progress there, but no question about it. It can be a pretty slow process getting from plan to implementation. And so, but we'll continue dialoguing and sharing information. And so we'll see if we can continue to make some more headway.
You know, if I was going to complain the same way, you know, Tooele is bigger than Brigham City population wise. But again, they're in the urban, but we are not.
Yeah, and you probably don't want to know that it was a trailer court in unincorporated Box Elder County that made the difference. That made the difference. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, but the census criteria are what they are, and so sometimes little pockets of density. It's not only a population threshold, but it's also, I think they call them something like some technical term like jumps and hops, distance between density clusters. So it's, yes, it is what it is.
And our latest census has got dual privacy, which means introduced arbitrary population.
Keeps getting better and better. Sorry. Okay. So, yes.
Can I add to the conversation for a minute? Will you please bring that map back up? There was a lot of feedback from the community, and the latest came from Senator Sandel with regards to interest for active transportation trails or bike path along Mid-Valley Highway future alignment. The problem is we can only adopt an approved community plan, and as you see from this map, there's nothing planned for Mid-Valley Highway, the future phase. So I would strongly suggest the community, that is a important factor to envision what you want out of that trail, because we can't arbitrarily put it in unless the community, it's an approved community plan.
Thank you. So it sounds like what you're saying, it would be well for the county and cities to work together and identify an AT plan that includes something along phases 2 and 3 of Mid-Valley Highway. Is that, am I hearing that correctly?
Yes, I would strongly recommend that if that is something the community wants included in the future plan. It may not be built with certain phases, but as long as it's planned, we can include it in the environmental or possible future footprint.
So it sounds like it would be advisable to develop such a plan soon in order to be considered as part of the environmental work for phases 2 and 3.
So may help me understand. So when we did the Mid-Valley Highway, thank heavens, it's been a real help to us out here. Shouldn't we have put a trail design in that when we was building it?
We didn't put it in because it was not in the original environmental, and we didn't put it in the original environmental because it was not considered, it was not in the overall community approved plan. So we can only adopt what the community has already approved as a vision of the active transportation plan, like what you have right here.
So that's what you're encouraging us to do now, is to get it in early, get on. So, okay, thanks, Juan.
So how do we add that to the
Even
map?
if you don't know, even if you don't know what the alignment would look like, but to say that you want it there for whatever alignment it may be is a vision, but it just needs to be identified. Because right now, according to this draft plan, there's nothing that you are planning for phase 2 and 3.
So Wayne, how do you add that into the plan, I guess? If we don't know where it's at, are we just drawing a big buffer where we think it will go and adding it in the maps? That's part of your planning process. Is that what we have to do?
That might be the way to go. Unless, I mean, I'm welcome. You're welcome. Everybody's welcome to offer other options. But for now, that's what we did with Mid-Valley Highway, was put in a line on the highway and just footnoted that alignment subject to change. And so I think if we identify something and label it as Mid-Valley bike path and footnote it, that alignment is subject to change.
Which phase would we put that in then? Because if that Mid Valley is going in phase one, would we put it as part of a phase one project for the state to fund?
That's,
So it doesn't matter to me, as long as it's covered environmentally. The next phase after this is just recommend funding. And then at that time, when you go through and pursue funding for whatever's recommended, that's when you can include it or exclude it in the building of it. But at least it's in your vision.
very good.
Need to add
Thank
that
you.
in then.
Yeah, we will work on adding that in. Thank you very much, Juan. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Other comments or questions in regard to this active transportation map? I've got a couple. So is it helpful to identify the schools and the parks and that kind of thing on here? Or do you think that just clutters the map? Or what are your thoughts on continuing to have schools and parks and so forth on the legend and on the map?
Well, the one you got here is kind of mixed. You're missing 2 elementary schools in Grantsville that aren't shown.
Okay.
I think it's helpful, Wayne. That's where our bike users are.
Sorry, James, one more time.
I said, I think it's helpful because I believe that's where the large majority of our bike riders are.
Okay. Thank you for that input, and thank you, Councilmember Tripp. Missing 2 elementary schools in Grantsville, and any other schools or destinations that?
Well, you're missing at least 1 in Stansbury Park.
Okay.
The old middle school I can't see there. Can you see that, Kendall?
No. And also Desert, the new Home Depot High School, whatever it's called.
No, the new Desert Peak High School isn't there.
I don't see Bonneville Academy either.
Sorry, Councilmember Hamner?
Yes.
One more time.
There's some charter schools.
You have some charter schools that aren't on there either, but yet you have a flow of students that go in and out of there.
Thank you.
So you're missing Bonneville Academy for sure.
The one thing I think we're missing is the future. We're planning, we need to get the school district, because I know they're planning for schools in Lake Point, different places around the community. They're talking about one out in Stockton, an elementary school. I think it's important to get the school board or the school district involved and say, where do you see these growths? Because I'm sure we're going to have trails come in and out of those communities.
Thank you. Appreciate your catching all those updates and also identifying the need to include future school plans. Thank you.
There, this is Dan in Grantsville. There's another school that's under construction right now. I don't know if you're looking to add those in there, but we're also doing the park and ride along the 138. Both of those should probably be added in.
So the new park and ride and which school?
The school that's on My Green World.
Are we talking about 20 Wells? Which will be open in August?
Yes, it is open in August. Yeah, I guess that is 20 Wells. I didn't know the name of the school.
Thank you.
In the legend, we have trailheads, but I don't see them on, well, there's a couple, I guess there's one. I'm trying to see where they're at. There's a couple there. Are we talking about the other trailheads that the county owns?
Well, and that's an excellent point also. Whether you want, I mean, there could be value in adding trailheads that kind of put a tie between Valley and then the foothills or outside of the Valley proper, maybe.
Okay.
That kind of input would be welcome.
Okay. Very good.
You know, I think, I was just looking at the trailhead down here off of Durfee coming up on 112, where it's going to go out around the Romney properties, and I can't remember what that trail's called. If we put our existing trails on, excuse me, are we going to make our map so cluttered that we can't it's hard to see because this map here to me that we're looking at is our proposed drafting. If we see how it ties in, I think it'd be helpful to have a map to show how all these tie into our current and existing trails. And
I
I think,
agree.
and I think we're kind of missing that maybe.
Yep, yep. Thank
But I
you.
don't want to make it so busy that, like the ones that come through Tooele, and if there's some in Grantsville, how do we correlate those trails? I don't.
Yeah, and there are some existing shown on there, but you know, I think there's like Vine Street has an existing one. But that color should be green to show existing rather than phase one, I guess, probably. I probably didn't notice that when I was
You bet.
sending feedback, you know.
No
So, but I think also there's other like non-paved trails.
Right.
And so is this, I guess my question is this just is this just talking about paved bicycle routes probably?
Well, and so I think that's up to the group. Whether you want to add in, and if it gets too cluttered, maybe there's a way to identify some key dirt trails that you want to show connections to from the roadways or that kind of thing. So great, good discussion. Thank you. A bit to think about, and we'll send out some information and keep coordinating on getting this further updated. So thank you. Let's see, item 4 on the agenda. Wanted to turn some time to Grant and or Jay to briefly talk about the statewide long-range plan process.
I'm not sure if Jay's on here, so I'm the one that volunteered it, so I just wanted to touch base with the group with just the long-range planning process where we had a meeting yesterday, and many of you on this call already participated, but just to express our appreciation for your participation in that meeting. And we're going to be working on updating it. And one of the things that, as we explored some of the longer term roadways that like eventually a bypass around the depot on the western side as Cedar Valley continues to develop, and the east side of Tooele Valley. As you work with developers to kind of preserve some of these larger corridors, that's really helpful to preserve options without it being too disruptive to the local residents, so that when it does get enough population density to maybe have it be considered a regional facility, those options are still available and supported. That's usually how it's done in other rural areas, but just wanted to voice that as we looked at Oker Expressway, which are not state facilities, and it's kind of in that limbo area of ways to have those things being considered until they are, maybe they might meet that stage at some point in the future, but that's one of the ways that we've just noticed that it being done. And also to see if there's any other questions about the long range process that we weren't able to discuss, or any projects that wanted to be discussed further.
Grant, I am here. This is.
Oh, Jay.
Grant, do you want to share the public input website with everyone? I think that's the most important thing. We did hold that meeting last Friday at the Wasatch Front Regional Council. For those of you that weren't able to attend it, there is an ongoing open line of comment on online, but direct you and comments regarding projects or other needs. That website, and it's Grant that with everyone.
Sorry, Jay, did you have that website?
I will.
that's a way that you can provide a comment online as well.
Feel free to interrupt, Jay, when you have that available. And
Maybe I can just, I'll share it with Grant and he can, because I'm on the phone.
okay, sounds good. Anything else, Grant?
That's it for me.
All right, thank you. You may recall at the March meeting, I shared some information on several new competitive grant programs that are part of the recent federal reauthorization. I'd like to invite Kip Billings with WFRC to share a bit of information about the Safe Streets and Roads for All program. WFRC is getting involved in some efforts related to that Safe Streets and Roads for All program, and wanted to Kip and I will tag team on giving a little update on that.
Thanks, Wayne. So as Wayne mentioned, as part of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, Federal Highways has introduced a new funding program called Safe Streets for All, or you may see it abbreviated SS4A. They're programming $1 billion annually for the next 5 years. There is no state formula, so it's competitive nationwide. The directions we're getting from Federal Highways is these funds are available to cities and counties. They're specifically not eligible to states, but in many cases, states could be a partner in a project if the local government is sponsoring that. So anyway, the first step in this process is to put together a comprehensive safety action plan. And again, the guidelines from Federal Highways is rather than every local community submitting their own grants and applications, they would like to see multi-jurisdictional collaboration and do this as on a regional scale. So they're not specifically going through the MPOs to implement this, but that structure is there, and some of our partners have reached out to us to ask us to lead on doing a regional safety action plan. So right now that's the approach we are taking. We're looking at the 6-county area of Weber, Davis, Salt Lake, Tooele, Morgan, and southern Box Elder. And we've made contacts to a person to write this grant for us. It's some very specific instructions that we're getting from Federal Highways of 40 pages of instructions just how to write the grant. So, and that's to do the safety action plan. So once you have a safety action plan in place the first year, then from that plan, you can, starting in the second year, apply for funds to implement specific projects and strategies. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We are trying to identify a planning committee to oversee this process and the direction of the safety action plan over the coming year. I think that's kind of where everything stands right now. I'll turn it back to Wayne about the rest of that planning committee we're putting together.
So let me just kind of follow up question on that, Wayne, if I might. So do you want a representative from the county, or are you looking for any kind of expertise? I mean, kind of what players are you looking for?
Excellent, thank you.
So maybe that's where you're going to go with it.
Yes, but thank you. That's exactly where we're wanting to go. So part of our purpose in bringing this item to you is to ask for your participation. There will be a larger advisory committee if we're successful in getting funding to develop this safety action plan. There will be a larger advisory committee with multiple people from each of the 6 counties. But for this planning committee that will kind of oversee putting in the application for funding for this plan, we'd like just 1 or 2 representatives from each of the 6 counties. And so if you could talk among yourselves and identify, and we're fine with either planning expertise or safety expertise or whatever kind of expertise, but just somebody who's committed to and interested in participating in this regional plan development that will allow local governments in each of the 6 counties to apply for implementation of safety improvements over the next 4 years.
These are the counties of the Wasatch Front.
Yeah,
Council.
within WFRC. Yep, that's correct. So if you guys could talk and identify 1 or 2 people from Tooele County or from one of the cities, that would be terrific. Great, thank you. Any questions or other comments on that SS4A discretionary grant program?
I've already got a need out here. I'll submit the need.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Any other items of business for today? Hearing none. Oh, please.
I went to the UDOT meeting, I participated on the Zoom meeting, and Wayne, I want to compliment you and Grant for everything that you've let out to help us with the auxiliary lane coming off of 201, Mid-Valley Highway. You know, we've really received, because of you guys' hard work and our predecessors, helped moving this along. So I just want you to know how much I appreciate it. And you know, we still need more, and you guys are treating us great. And I want to express my appreciation.
You bet. That's certainly a team effort, and we'll give Juan a lot of the credit for Mid-Valley Highway, and as well as local governments. As far as I can tell, or am aware of what's been shown to me, Mid-Valley Highway has been on some kind of plan since the late 1800s. And so it's nice to see the first phase be implemented finally. And I know Juan was the PM on that westbound auxiliary lane. And so a lot of players between the local governments and the state and the MPO. So thank you.
Hey, and this is it. This is the last thing. The signage on that Mid-Valley Highway sucks. That's not a swear word, by the way. So anyhow, I come up it again this morning. Last week I went up and there was a death on the damn thing. We got to do something. We got to do better.
Thank you. That's good input as well. And living in an imperfect world, there's always more work to be done. So thank you. Next meeting is scheduled for September 12th. We'll plan on doing a hybrid meeting unless, again, here with the county council chambers as the base, unless health conditions dictate otherwise. But thanks again for everyone's participation and the county hosting, and we'll be adjourned. Oh, sorry, one last thing. In the chat box, Grant included the website for giving input on the statewide long-range plan. So Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Grant. And that's publicinput.com/UDOT planning. All right. Adjourned. Thank you.